Hi there, welcome to Community Made, the podcast dedicated to exploring the powerful ways we connect in our lives, our work, and our business. I'm your host, Ingrid Reed, and in each episode, we'll dive into genuine conversations that shape our sense of belonging, offering insights and real stories about building meaningful communities in life, in business, online, and offline. Let's grow! Jonathan Roque is the founder and writer of Latino Owned, a newsletter for Latino and first-gen entrepreneurs and creators. Outside of building Latino Owned, Jonathan is a full-stack content marketer who works with e-commerce apps to maximize their ROI through content. Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Super excited to be here.
Yes, me too. So you are one of my LinkedIn friends. That's how I came across you and your profile and the work that you're doing. And I'm very excited to chat with you because you recently launched a really cool newsletter and you're doing very exciting work building Latino own and sharing the spotlight, as I like to say, in stages with other Latino owners and founders, shaping conversations around customer loyalty, which I want to talk about, but also helping creators and businesses with strategies that actually work. And one of your issues actually just came in my inbox right now. And so I would just want to, before I even, let me just ask, how are you doing today? Because I always like to just jump in and I'm like, no, Ingrid, how are you, Jonathan?
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm doing well. It's been a slow morning, so I can't complain. And, it's been good. And I'm like, you know what? I'm excited for today.
Yes, me too, because we've been trying to make this happen too. And I know we had a little like rescheduling that we had to do because of the summer and back to school, but I'm happy that we're here. Now, you're in California, right? How's the weather?
Yes, it's super sunny, super beautiful. I'm like, it's been a hot summer, so I can't complain.
Yeah.
That the weather's finally starting to cool off, but it's been good, so I can't complain.
Yes, I love it. Every time that the weather hits that like mid 60s to early like to low 70s, I'm like, this is what I want. And my husband's always like, well, move to California. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not, like, let's not get crazy here. I'm not,
Yeah.
like, I'm not trying to move across the country, but like this is like really nice weather. So anyway, I'm sure that it feels beautiful. But can we talk about your newsletter, Latino Owned, and what sparked this new, journey that you're on?
Yeah, so Latino Owned is a newsletter that I launched in July
Mhm.
1st. So I announced it in June on LinkedIn, and yeah, it's grown to over 600 people now.
That's
So
amazing,
yeah,
congrats.
thank you. Yeah, and our Instagram has grown to like almost 600 as well. So it's been fun to kind of just create this and really. So my background is in e-commerce. So I work with a lot of Shopify brands on the
Mhm.
tech side, so apps that run businesses online. And so for the longest time, I came across so many cool businesses that were not Latino owned or some were. And I was just like, for those that weren't Latino owned, I was always wondering like, why can't a Latino or Latina entrepreneur create this? And then for those that I was working with that were Latino and Latina owned businesses, I was like, this is such a cool idea. I wish there was a place to showcase this. And yeah, there's dozens of newsletters, and so I wanted to really differentiate this to be really for any Latino and Latina entrepreneur. And so that's kind of what sparked the idea. And yeah, it's grown, and we've highlighted some incredible business owners. And I say we, but it's just me and myself myself. But it's been so fun to kind of just dive into these stories and really, I think one of the exciting things about it is that every business owner has that, foundation of like why they started their business and things like that. But when it comes to Latino and Latinas, there's a different layer of like a bigger why, whether it's their family business or, their first gen or their parents started a business. So there's really just like complex layers, but it's really what drives and makes these Latino businesses just be different from all the other ones.
100%, there's a lot of history, right, in our culture baked into it, but let's just go back for a second because we should say "we," because it's me, myself, and I is what I always say, and we wear all the hats. We wear all the hats.
I love that. Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, so don't feel bad because you gotta own
Yeah.
it. It's like, yeah, this is we, and we do all the work.
Exactly, yeah.
But okay, well, wait. Speaking of the history and some of these founders that you've been spotlighting, there's a couple questions that I want to follow up on. But um, do you have your own story tied to your like how you were brought up? Were your parents business owners? I feel like I saw something somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, so my parents are so, my parents came from Mexico, I mean, they're early 20s, so it was probably around the late 70s, 80s, and they landed here in California, and they owned a jewelry store. So they started as farm workers, right? So working in the fields, picking the fruit, and then from there they made their way to packing houses, and then my dad and my mom learned English, they got their GED. So they were always trying to progress and try and be a little bit better for, myself and my siblings. And yeah, eventually in the early 90s, they opened a jewelry store and
Okay.
yeah, which is still open today. And unfortunately, they're no longer here. So after their passing, it was really a big decision of whether we keep the business or not. And so we decided to keep it. The storefront is still operating today. And then I decided to take this digital and really make it an e-commerce brand. I'd say probably 2 years ago. And so it's been a journey to kind of, in a way, start over with the e-commerce and then still operating a storefront. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit of wearing multiple hats there. And yeah, that was also part of the reason why I started Latino Owned because I felt a little lonely in rebuilding this. And so I was like, you know what? There's no community, let's build one. And so that's kind of what I did. And it's been fun connecting with readers who kind of resonate with, either they're taking over a business or they're just starting one themselves. And so, yeah, so it's been a journey to kind of from where my parents were, what they started, and then me figuring out how do I continue it and really move it forward, but in a way also making it my own as well.
And did you ever work with them at the store growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up there basically. So it's after schools, that's where I would be at, from so
Okay.
the shop would be open from like 9 to 5. So after school, I'd walk there and be there, whether it's like a little kid like watching TV or, things like that. And then yeah, as I got older, still there and my dad would sell at the flea markets and stuff like that. So a lot of my siblings would work there. But yeah, I practically grew up there, so it's like my second home, like that
Yeah. Yeah.
physical building.
Yeah. I'm glad that you still get to have a piece of that. And, who knows what that could turn into. But I feel like you also get to learn so much, right? And
Yeah.
what you learn through something like that and that experience of watching your parents get to that point and build something, that's something that you can't learn anywhere else. Like you can read all the stories you want, but being able to experience it, look at you now building something of your own. That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. And it's crazy because in these moments where I'm like, how do I even like when I first started, I was like we had to, switch filing from like an sole proprietorship to like an LLC. And so I was like, how do I even do that? And so I'm thinking back like great, we have Google and all these resources, but I can't even imagine like back, in the early
Mhm.
90s when that wasn't accessible and like how my parents did this from like practically nothing and not knowing anybody who kind of was a business owner. So it's been very humbling as well to kind of be like, okay, we have these resources, like no better way to kind of continue the business.
Yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about community and those who like you embody it because when you think about anyone, right? But especially our parents and older generations, they had their own ways. But when you think about the way we used to consume and learn, so much harder than what it is now because we have it literally at our fingertips. But being able to surround yourself with the right people makes such a big difference. And I'm very glad that now technology and the internet allows us to do that. Not just social media. Forget about social media. That's the old way, right? Now it's the newsletters, the podcasts, the actual experiences that you get to do in these interviews where you get to know people. And so my question to you is now, because I signed up immediately, like the moment this came across my feed, so I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And so then I went on and I followed, and I immediately subscribed, and so I've been able to witness
Yeah.
the build of Latino Owned from the very beginning, where you were just announcing it, to actually going live. Followed you on Instagram. How are you finding these stories and these founders right now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for subscribing and like being part of it because it's this community that we're building together. So definitely appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of these founders I'm sourcing on LinkedIn. So either I worked with in the past through like, they used an app that I was working with, so I would reach out, or but the majority is I'm trying to source them and find them on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and then some through Instagram. And yeah, it's been exciting because you know, these founders want to get the word out too on what they're building. And so it's been a great avenue to kind of say, hey, let me interview you for this newsletter.
Mhm.
I still remember interviewing the first one, which was a Latina owned tequila brand. And, she's in the fundraising stages for this, but I mean, she's built an incredible brand. And so it was exciting for me to even just be like, "Hey, can I interview
Yeah.
you for this thing that I don't even know where it's gonna go, but, we have
Yes.
subscribers." And so, just yeah, very thankful for those early interviews for sure.
Yeah, and early intros to some of these people that are going to do great things and are already doing great things. Now, you mentioned the work that you've done. You worked with brands like Heatmap and Smile.io.
Mhm.
What's one lesson that you've taken from all of your experience that you're now putting, into action as you build your own thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've learned so much being at these tech companies where I mean, I remember one day I was in a meeting and I was just thinking to myself, I'm the only person I would say of color, right? Like I was the only Latino. There was no other folks in these meetings, and I was like, "This is so interesting." And so, I think what I've learned is that to be like proud of the background that I bring, and to bring
Mhm.
my perspective to the forefront. So if I have an idea, it's let me speak it out. If I have a certain viewpoint, let me express that, and I think that's what I've learned, makes me a better marketer, makes me a better, entrepreneur building this. And so, yeah, I guess really just not being afraid of my perspective and my experience and really bringing that forward in any room that I'm in.
What's one thing that you think about and say, "I never wanna bring that into what I'm building," or that you can't even believe ever happened?
Oh man, I like truly never want to bring just this toxicity and egoness. And I think working in tech companies, that's so easy to filter through the company and even down to like team members.
Mhm,
And yeah, I'm always very conscious of how I can make someone feel, whether if it's I'm in a leadership position or, a mentorship position. How can I make someone feel comfortable, but also, having empathy as well. And I think that's something that's lacking a lot of today in the workforce. And so, yeah, I always want to bring empathy, and something that I always think about is, how can I make someone really have a good experience, whether they're working with me for a short amount of time or they're a colleague of mine? How can we really like be collaborative?
mhm. So when you do these interviews, do you do them like I know a lot of publications, they're just like, here's the written interview and like the questions. Do you do it that way, or do you actually meet with people and get to know them and ask these questions in a kind of like this in a video format?
Yeah, so it's basically like this. So I'm basically interviewing them through, video, and
Mhm.
then I have my recorder, which is my phone, and then I
That's
just
awesome.
transcribe it. And really, it's just what I always wanna do through every interview is make it seem very natural and flow
Yeah.
very naturally through the conversation. Um, and so, yeah, that's kinda how I always approach things. And
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that. It's like a reporter.
yeah, I really wanna make them feel at ease and comfortable. I don't want it to be like I'm grilling them or being like, "Okay, next question." Like, I really want it to flow naturally, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been good to kinda do it that way, for sure.
I like that. So, okay, for those that are listening, what type of brands, industries, qualities, what do you look for when you source these people for future spotlights?
Yeah. So first, I look at if they're an e-commerce brand or if they're
Okay.
creators creating something.
Mhm.
That's sort of the first step in figuring out, can I interview them? Can I highlight
Yeah.
them? And then 2, it's like, can this business and entrepreneur bring value to my readers? And so I
Mm,
always wanna bring something of value, whether it's learning about, manufacturing or learning about how this person went viral on Instagram or TikTok. So I always wanna bring value. And then the
mhm,
3rd is, just if they have a really cool story. Um,
mhm,
I think now what I'm figuring out is I don't necessarily wanna be pigeonholed to kind of just interview Latino and Latina founders because
mhm,
what I realize is there's so many other people that have a good perspective that I wanna bring to my audience that are Latino and Latinas. So,
mhm,
for example, I have this upcoming series on 4 marketing things to try in Q4 for business owners, and a lot of the people that I interviewed are founders at these tech companies who are, not Latino. Some are European, some are from other parts of the world, but they have really good knowledge that I think we as Latinos and Latinas could really take away from. And so that's kind of where I'm like, okay, this is for our community, but we can benefit from different voices and learn from other people as well.
yeah, I agree. I feel like the more people that we can surround ourselves with, the more we learn and grow. So that takes me to LinkedIn. So, okay, so we talked about how that's how I found you. And I know you started to show up more on Instagram too. How do you feel about where social media is now? Have you always been active on LinkedIn or is that relatively new?
Yeah, it's relatively new.
Okay.
I've always had it since like college, but really, I'd say this summer is where I really started ramping up and like thinking about, okay, how can I post? How can I grow my followers
Mhm.
there? And really, I mean, it's a whole new platform. I feel
Yeah.
like LinkedIn has transformed radically in the past year. So yeah, it's crazy.
Are you focusing on multiple platforms right now? My advice to people is always like pick 1 to 2 and go wild, but don't try to be everywhere at once. So I'm just curious what your strategy has been. What have you been focusing on to spread the word of Latino owned?
Yeah, I definitely struggled there where I was like, should I be on TikTok? Should I be, on Facebook? I don't know. But I really like picked 2 channels, so which is LinkedIn and Instagram. And the reason why I'm doubling down on those is because I want to build a really good audience on Instagram. And then also LinkedIn, I think so at HEMAP, at a tech company that I worked at, I worked with a couple B2B influencers. So a lot of them were on LinkedIn. And so I realized there's a really big power in, I would say, influencers on LinkedIn. And so I was like, okay, let me double down on this platform. How can I grow it for Latino owned? Because I worked with these creators and influencers on LinkedIn. How can I do
Yeah.
that for myself? And so that's kind of why I'm doubling on LinkedIn.
That's a good way to think about it because even coming from corporate, and a lot of us battle with this, sometimes we can do better work for others than we can do for ourselves.
For sure.
And I think it just takes rewiring, a little bit of rewiring in our brain to think we can do that for ourselves too. And so I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're taking that approach of I've done this before, I can do this for myself now.
Exactly. Yeah, I was working with these influencers that were big on LinkedIn, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm writing out their posts for them. So all they have to do is hit publish. They're getting paid a lot. And I was like,
Yeah.
why can't I just do this for Latino owned? So that's kind of why I'm like, okay, let me focus on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. No, I love it because it's working.
Yeah,
Again, I was able to find your content through that, and I'm sure that that plays a big role into your subscriptions and even people that now like I immediately so my platforms are like Instagram, Substack, and LinkedIn. And so, not in any particular order, but after I followed you on LinkedIn and subscribed to the newsletter, I was like, oh, naturally, let me follow him on Instagram. So
Yeah.
I think, whether people like to believe it or not, there's still some type of cadence that people naturally follow when they find someone they want to, follow, like their work. And so
Yeah.
for me, that was like that path that I took. So it's important to be present.
Yeah, yeah. And so like for example, I was just in Puerto Rico for a
Mhm.
week and I had stopped posting for like 2 weeks. And so
Wait,
I
did
could
you go see Bad Bunny?
I did. It was
Was
incredible.
it great?
It was the
I
best.
wanted to go so bad and we couldn't make it happen, but tell me, wait, how was it?
It was it was an incredible experience. I think
Mhm.
just being surrounded by everybody who and one of the moments is like he during one of the sets he points the camera to a lot of people holding different flags from all the Latin American countries. So there was Mexico, El Salvador, the Puerto Rican flag. And so it was just so amazing to kind of see all that. And I think, yeah, I this is like my third time seeing him and I'm like, it was the best show ever.
I've heard great things and I've been watching all the videos, so I'm glad that you made time to go. But what were some learning lessons even from that? I cut you off because I was so excited to find out if
No,
that was
no.
the reason why.
Yeah, no, oh, but I was saying that I had stopped posting for like 2 weeks and I was like
Mhm.
really beating myself up for it, but then I was like, no, it's better to kind of produce quality work, on Instagram or LinkedIn and even for the newsletter, we hadn't published in 2 weeks, but now we came back with a good story and fresh perspective, so it's really exciting. And yeah, I got in Puerto Rico, got to connect with some entrepreneurs as well, so that might be a little series coming up as well.
Yes, but also one thing that I like to remind people, which I don't know. Some people might think it's harsh, but it's the truth. Nobody cares. And I mean this in the sense of I like even for me, I can send a newsletter every week, but if I just miss a week, nobody's gonna call me and say, "Hey, Ingrid, what happened? Like I didn't get your email in my inbox." And so I know it sounds harsh, but I mean it in the nicest way possible. Don't worry because people will still be there. And that's why we work hard to build our email list and to gather our communities and find those connections that can still be there and nurture them. So if we take, the summer off or a week or two off, we can, some people like to plan ahead and pre schedule. I'm the type that is very on the go. So for me, even last weekend, I forget why I skipped. It was probably the holiday. I
Mhm.
skipped the holiday and I was just like, whatever. And in the back of my mind,
Mm.
I was like, should I have done something? But then I came back the next week and the open rates were the same. No
Yeah.
issues with anything. So it's like I'm glad that you were able to experience that because now I think it does allow us to grow in the sense of we don't have to be plugged in all the time. And I think it's good even to give our audience a break every now and then, especially for Bad Bunny. So
Yeah, I was like, it's a good reason to miss a couple issues.
yeah. 100%. So I don't blame you. No, that's awesome. I love that you were able to experience that and that you had fun and you made connections that now can turn into something else. So when
Yeah.
you think about what you're doing now with Latino Owned, and I don't want to get too far, out in the future, but how are you feeling about the plans for the rest of the year? And even when you think about, 2026, like what are some thoughts or ideas that you have on your radar to as far as like what's next?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really see Latino owned as like there's so much potential with it, right? Of like down the line maybe being its own media company or
Yes.
being its own like publication. Um
Mhm.
I would say for now I would say in the next 6 months to a year, my goal is to kind of be in these e-commerce conferences and sort of be that Latino voice in these spaces, whether it's through a Shopify event or through a lot of e-commerce businesses have like these conferences where they showcase their products and things like that. And so that's sort of where I see Latino owned going in a year of like, okay, can we be a presence at these spaces? And then still continuing growing the newsletter, um, you know, really highlighting incredible businesses. I think really the next 6 months is going to look like doing little series of like,
Mhm.
you know, like I mentioned, the one on tech companies and then one on creators, and how they're really making TikTok really be their full-time business. There's a lot of Latino creators on TikTok, and so I was like, there's so many learnings that we can all learn from that. So that's its own series coming up as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of mini series, but I could definitely see Latino
Mm,
Owned as being the launch pad for,
yeah.
being in these spaces and,
Yeah.
who knows, maybe speaking gigs as well.
I see it too. I see its own conference, its own
Ooh,
summit.
that-
Like,
that's a good
and you
idea.
bring yes, like, you bring all of these people that you've interviewed so far, maybe the most popular one from your open rates, and having a full day of a summit for Latino-owned founders and creators to come together. I see a true community, like a community building platform where you house all of these people and they come in to chat and exchange ideas. Like, I see so much potential for this, and I know you're just getting started, but you're building something amazing and very powerful, and something that you probably couldn't find. That's always my first guess when I see someone building communities like Latino owned and even communities I've built myself personally. It's because I couldn't find it out there. I looked and nothing spoke to what I was trying, like it didn't speak to me. It didn't feel right. And so I said, let me go and build it. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's such a good idea. And that just sparked like a couple ideas in my head right now where like, yeah, it could be its own little conference. And
Absolutely.
who knows? Yeah. But yeah, you're
Just
right
don't do it too far. If you do it in Cali, come back and do it over here closer to me too. So
for sure. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think that when you build a community, there's truly no limits, right? Because if you truly build something that people are engaging with, yeah, they're gonna follow. And if it's something that is like truly benefiting not only ourselves as business owners, but the culture, right? Like it's gonna be something that people are gonna be worth like listening, tuning in, or
Mhm.
watching. So yeah.
Yeah, and even now what you're doing with these interviews, you are meeting one-on-one with these founders or creators. You're establishing that relationship that then you nurture and follow. And
Yeah.
just because you already feature them doesn't mean you can't repurpose all of that content. Like that's evergreen, especially as they launch new products or, raise money. The opportunities are truly endless. But I'm wondering, you use Beehive for your platform?
I do use
Okay, how
Beehive.
did you make that decision in a world where we have endless platforms to pick from?
Yeah, because you're on Substack, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked Beehive. I mean, there were so many. I mean, I was even looking at MailChimp, but I know that's like so 2010s. Um, but I think working e-commerce, I was like, wait. But yeah, Beehive, I really just really liked how I mean, and I'm on the free version right now, but it's
Okay.
gonna they force you once you're up to 2,500 subscribers to go
Oh,
onto
wow,
the
to
paid plan. Um,
okay.
but I really saw it as there's a potential to kind of build its website on their platform and really make
Mhm.
it a little bit more customizable. So that's kind of why I decided to go with Beehive. And then
Yeah.
one cool thing that they do have is these recommendations. So when somebody subscribes, and I know Substack has something similar, when you
Yeah.
subscribe, there's a couple recommendations. And so yeah, I basically just picked it because I was like, it's a easy platform, at least for myself for now, to kind of
Right.
figure it out while I was building Latino
Well,
Owned.
your newsletter looks beautiful. The format, the setup, I invite everyone to subscribe and look at what Jonathan's built because every time I get it in my inbox, I'm a Virgo, so I'm a perfectionist. And every time I see I'm like, oh, it's like a breath of fresh air. Just the colors, the formatting, everything. I'm like, yep, check, 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 check.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a big compliment. I love that. Because I did want to keep it very clean, very
Mhm.
aesthetically pleasing to where,
Yeah.
if I was opening it in my inbox, I would enjoy it as
Mhm.
well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then when I was making the font of like Latino owned, I was just like, let me just keep it simple, and I just did like Latino owned.
Yeah, it looks great. So, do you have, given everything that you've been through in your experience and even the companies and organizations you work for now, your own business, do you have any advice for those listening, contemplating maybe a similar shift in their journey as far as, I think I'm ready to launch something new, or even just a newsletter? I think a lot of people get nervous when they think they have to follow certain rules and guidelines and not make it their own. What's your piece of advice?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only advice is to just start, like go for it. I remember like publishing the first or just even announcing that I was thinking of this on LinkedIn, which I think is the one you found, but I was like so nervous. I don't know
Yeah.
why. And I was just like, I was like I even recorded a video because I was like, okay, I'm gonna publish it. And I don't know why I was so nervous, but I think yeah, I think people just need to start. And I think maybe it was a little bit of being embarrassed of like, what will my former bosses say? What will my colleagues say on LinkedIn? But I mean, all of that now being in it with like 3 months in and a couple issues, all of that is out the window. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're readers, like my colleagues and bosses, but I kind of don't care what they say. And I think for the longest time, posting on LinkedIn, was hard for me just because I didn't want them to see what I was doing. But yeah, all of that's out the window now once you start, because I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, like I'm building something, and who's gonna be along for the ride will be there, and who's not won't be there.
I remember back in the day when posting on LinkedIn was, to post something personal on LinkedIn was out of the question. And
Exactly.
now you see stories about puppies and, vacations and personal
Birthday.
thoughts and challenges and family and everything, which I personally love. I think we needed a little bit of that break because otherwise it felt like you were almost hiding your identity from employers and bosses and colleagues and even clients if you freelance or have your own business, when in reality that's who you are and that's what makes you you. And 9 times out of 10, that's a strength. What you're building, the skills and knowledge that you're learning from going out on your own, that's a big, big strength that all of these organizations would be more than lucky to have a Jonathan in there and many other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly that. I was very just like, what are they gonna say? What are, my boss is gonna say and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, now it's just like there's so many personal stories on LinkedIn, which is great. And like you said, we
Yeah.
needed that. And
Mhm.
so yeah, and so I think people just need to start and realize
Mhm.
that you have a lot of um these experiences that make us unique in whatever
Mhm.
team or capacity that we're joining,
Mhm.
whether it's like, work or not. We have these perspectives that, make us better marketers, make us better as entrepreneurs, creators, and so on. And so we just need to kind of just start.
I love that. I think that's great advice. Now I have a couple questions that I'm just gonna like throw out there for you. If Latino Owned had its own Spotify playlist or any playlist for that matter, what song would be at the top?
Ooh, I would say right now, Bad Bunny, of course. Debí tirar más fotos.
Yes, I love
I mean,
that
just hearing
song.
that live and like now, it's a different experience on, when I listen to it. So that would be
Mhm.
at the very top.
Yeah, I agree. I approve that one. What's one entrepreneur or creator you'd love to feature but haven't yet?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I wouldn't say there's one, but there's a couple of community
Mhm.
of entrepreneurs that I have yet to ask. I don't know why, but there's a couple of these guys who I'm thinking of two. They're like
Mhm.
fashion designers. They're very, brand new, but they create amazing, incredible work. One is Puerto Rican and one is Mexican, and so I bought some of their stuff, and so I have yet to reach out and feature them, but, I would say
Okay, well,
those.
this is it. This is your
Yeah,
sign.
to reach out to them after this, so I probably will.
Yes, yes, you have to. Do you have a go-to ritual whenever you're feeling like you have no more inspiration left in you and you're just feeling really down? What do you do to kind of like reset?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. I would say 1, which is probably not a good thing, but I'm scrolling on TikTok. I think that's definitely not a good thing, but it does spark a couple of creative thoughts.
Yeah.
But,
Where it's kinda like
another
you're not thinking, you're mindlessly
thing
scrolling.
exactly, but one that is good for you is I do like to go for walks.
Okay.
I think that just naturally eases you, and so, yeah, I would say those 2 things.
As long as you're not going out on a walk and just scrolling at the same
No,
time.
I'm not trying to get hit by a car or anything.
I love it. Now, is there an app or tool that you can't live without now that you're, creating and building and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Instagram just because, I do get inspiration from there as well, so I would say now that I'm creating Latino Owned, that's where I'm finding now the algorithm is, like, pushing me new businesses to kind of look at, and so I'm like, "Okay, who are these people?" And so that's kind of why I'm just like, "Let me go on Instagram."
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
I listen, I'm guilty of it too, so I'm with you. Anything else that you want to share with those listening about what you're working on or what's coming, what we can expect, how to find you if they maybe
Yeah.
have a business or, they are interested in being featured in Latino owned?
Yes, I'm always open to anybody, wanting to be featured. So, yeah, I could be found on LinkedIn, Jonathan Roque. And then my email is jonathanroqueca@gmail.com. And then Latino Owned on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So, yeah, just connect with me there. I've had so many people actually reach out and being like, hey, can we have a conversation? Or I love what you're building. Can we speak? And so, yeah, I'm always open to that. I think that is one, how you're building community and connection, but also you're getting feedback from your readers and things like that. So, yeah, I'm definitely open to anyone wanting to connect with me or to be featured.
Perfect. And I'll put all your info and all your links in the show notes too so they know where to find it. But Jonathan, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you today. We made it work. We had our conversation and I got to learn so much from you and I can't wait to hear what happens in the next few months. I know I'm sending people your way, especially now that I'm like, okay, I know exactly what he's looking for. And I'm just excited for this episode to reach, the ears of so many wonderful founders and creators. So, thank
Yeah.
you for chatting with me today.
Thank you so much. I think what you're building is incredible as well. So, thank you so much for
Thank you.
inviting me and, yeah, also being part of the community as well. Super excited for you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate the support and that you came here and chatted with me today. That's
Yes.
a wrap on today's episode of Community Made. Thanks for tuning in and don't forget to subscribe so you're always up to date on all the new conversations. You can find more about Community Made and sign up for the newsletter at communitymade.substack.com.